Hey guys, what up? It's October 29th, and I want to go over my take on the Ford Motor Company earnings that happened this week. I'm going to go over the numbers, what has me excited about the stock, all that kind of stuff. But before we get started, please hit that like button. I would really appreciate it if you get some value off these videos. Go check out my other videos as well. My take on AMD earnings is posted as well from earlier this week. So let's get on with it. Also, actually, let's hit that subscribe button. I need that, guys. Hit that subscribe button. Okay, let's get on with it. So let's start with the earnings numbers, guys, for Ford. Okay, EPS, that's earnings per share, 51 cents versus 27 cents expected by Wall Street. That's a solid beat on the numbers. That's a measure of profitability, of course, and they crushed the numbers there. We'll talk about why they're crushing this number a little bit later. I think it's very important that we note that. Revenues up $33.2 billion over 32.2 expected. That's $1 billion more than expected. That's a very decent beat on the part of Ford. Guidance is good, mostly maintained, but the EBIT guide, that's the earnings before interest and tax, was increased by about $1.5 billion to 10.5 billion and 11.5 billion range. The prior range was 9 billion to 10 billion. So they're expecting to be more profitable. The other thing that they did do is that they reinstated their dividend to 10 cents per share. That's totally fine. I'm not crazy about a dividend, especially in a stock like this. I think that they should have actually not given a dividend. They should have just used that money for production, for factories, for vehicle orders, for semiconductor chip logistics. I would have been totally okay with that. So let's move on. So what has me excited about the stock? Why do I like this stock? And of course, it's the electrification of Ford, starting with the F-150 Lightning, which I myself have reserved at the moment. I have a reservation for this. I can't wait for the order banks to open and to see what the options are, what the pricing is, how the vehicle looks. That has me very happy, very excited. But of course, the application of this vehicle on the consumer side, I think, is very important, especially in the Midwest of the country, when you have features like the power your home feature for 3 days of powering, especially in states like Texas, Oklahoma, all those states that don't have a very reliable power grid. I think it's a very good feature. The other thing for consumers, I think, is that it gives a great alternative to the Tesla Cybertruck, which not a lot of people are in love with the design of the Tesla Cybertruck. It's weird. It's like this Blade Runner type of design that not everybody's a fan of. I like the design. I have no problem with it. But at the same time, my mom doesn't like it. You know, older folks probably don't like him. My wife doesn't like it. So essentially, it's not for everybody. But of course, they have about 140,000 reservations right now for the F-150 Lightning, most of which are not Ford owners. They've never owned a Ford. They're completely new to the brand, and not only new to the brand, new to trucks alone. So I think that's very important that people are reserving this vehicle that have never driven a Ford before, never been a Ford customer, never been a truck customer before. So that, I think, is very positive for the F-150 Lightning. Now, the next vehicle here to be excited about is the Mustang Mach-e. The Mustang Mach-e looks pretty cool. I love the design. I love the car overall. If I didn't need a truck, I would probably be getting this Mustang Mach-e, okay? I think it's also a good alternative for those that don't like the design of Tesla, that think the Model 3 looks a little bit too cheap, and I think that giving it the Mustang name is very important, and it has good features, good mileage, good speed, good handling. The GT model looks really nice. So I think it's a good vehicle for Ford, and I'm glad they put the Mustang name in front of it. That's very brave, and it's a great move. I really think. I've been seeing these vehicles more and more out there on the road. So are they going to be successful? I would say yes, absolutely. Now, when it comes to the F-150 Lightning, we talked about the consumer side. I want to talk about the business side of the F-150 Lightning and the ETransit line for Ford, because I think people are underestimating this sort of capability in these vehicles. Now, for a business, I could see a business using an F-150 Lightning to power a job site, a construction area, to power a food truck, to power an RV. Lots of capabilities there with the F-150 Lightning. Now, with the Ford ETransit, I'll show you guys that one. And here it is. Here's the ETransit. I think it's going to give capability to a lot of business owners and fleet managers to manage their fleets through the cloud, to be able to see where these vehicles are, what their staff is doing, and essentially have be able to see how charged they are, when do they need to come back for a charge. it gives fleet managers a lot of dynamic ability over their fleets that they never really had before. So very excited about the business side of Ford. I think it is very much underestimated at the moment. This is why the stock can go higher once these really start kicking out. Now, they're also doing really well with their non-sort of electric vehicle lineup with the Ford Maverick, which is a hybrid. There's also this Ford Expedition, which looks really nice, and the Ford Bronco, which is sort of like Jeep lovers. A lot of good things happen with the Bronco there. A lot of pre-orders, and you can't really get one. When you see it on the road, people are like, "Ooh, look at that, a Ford Bronco." Of course, with the history of the Bronco and the way that it's being treated now, I think it's a good car, and people like it. People are buying it, even if it's a nice vehicle. I'm not interested in gas vehicles anymore. I'm going to go full electric as soon as I can, because I just think that's just going to be the way of the world, but it is what it is. So great lineup, best vehicle lineup, I think, ever for Ford, which has us shareholders very excited, and we should be very happy as shareholders. So here's something that I want to go over, which I think is very important too, and it's the new model for buying Ford vehicles. So I think we know that the dealers nowadays, the dealer model is essentially dead, unless you're buying a used car, which I guess I could see a use for a dealer. But with Carvana, with all these kind of online CarMax, and what's the other one, Vroom, I don't see that as being very viable nowadays. But Ford is going into an online reservation model only. This is a great move, great execution by Ford, because it allows them to build the cars that people actually want. So it allows you to build your vehicle, and they can allocate their chip supply towards those vehicles, which sell at a higher margin. So very good job on their online ordering model for Ford. Very happy with that as well. So having said all that, let's go over the numbers. Let's dig into the earnings presentation by Ford this week and go over kind of what we make of it. This is a little bit complicated to go over because the numbers are there's a lot of numbers to go over. So I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible and as short as possible for you guys to understand. So here's what we're talking about. One of the first slides is they're talking about their execution to deliver the Ford Plus model. So what is the Ford Plus model? That is their change from the old Ford into the new Ford with electric vehicles, online ordering. Okay, they're talking about iconic nameplates. They're saying, hey, we're selling the best cars that we can put out there. Our lineup is amazing. Okay, talk about integrated hardware and software. They're talking about their vehicles, specifically electric vehicles, and some of the gas ones too. I think the Bronco has this connectivity through the cloud, the ability to update software and get data through the cloud so they can better the vehicles with software, over-the-air software updates. Of course, the electric vehicle lineup with the F-150 Lightning, that's golden. Right here, Ford Motor Credit, that's a profitable business for their car loans. Connectivity, we talked about that. And autonomous mobility. Of course, not claiming this is Tesla. Tesla, of course, obviously years ahead of the road. Here, Ford has Blue Cruise, which is their own form of autonomous mobility. I don't think it competes with Tesla by no means, but at the same time, I'm not dying to pay $10,000 for a car to drive me. I actually enjoy the driving experience, so I'm not in a hurry to have a self-driving vehicle at all, so I could do away with that for myself. So more talk here about execution. Okay, things to take away from this is their investment in factories, electric vehicle factories in Tennessee and Kentucky, and the technology that goes into building these cars in these plants. I think that you should look at how Ford is building these plants and the factory, the way it looks. I think it's very technological, very innovative, so all good there. But also, they're doubling of their F-150 Lightning production, so they're saying, hey, we have extreme demand for this vehicle, demand that we cannot satisfy. Also, we have to navigate a semiconductor shortage in the middle of that. So it's about building these cars as fast as possible, but also as intelligently as possible so we can get the biggest profit margins. So I know with the F-150 Lightning, they're probably going to start with the Platinum model, which has their biggest margins, which will allow them to make the most money off those sales. Now, when they go over the third quarter financial results here, we went over those here, but when it comes to revenue, EBIT, which is earnings before interest and tax, EBIT margins, adjusted free cash flow, and adjusted EPS, we can see that to year to date, what matters is that they're all up year to date. So very good numbers, very, very impressive numbers by Ford, great execution. They've navigated the semiconductor shortage very well. They've been able to do what other car brands haven't been able to do. So that's a plus right there. Nice little thing to note here too that I kind of missed here earlier. The Ford Evo's ST line featuring the industry-leading interface. Look at the interior of that vehicle. Very cool interior. Kind of reminds me of the Mercedes EQS. Okay, it's available to customers in China later this year. I would love for that car to be available here in the U.S. It looks like a $100,000 car to me. I don't know how much it costs. I have no idea, but it looks like sort of the high-end sort of car for Ford there. So let's go over this slide. I think this is a very important slide to go over, and I think it's one of the simplest slides that explains sort of what I want to come across here, which is their navigation of the semiconductor shortages and how well they performed against that headwind. So here we have their wholesale unit sales in revenue in $1 billion, okay? And we see here 2020, Q2, Q3, Q4 2020, and this is a time in which they actually had supply to sell. They had cars to sell, they had cars sitting in their dealers. This is when the Rona starts hitting here, and they have supply of vehicles to sell. Now, of course, here, now the supply starts to dwindle, but here, at the height of the supply issues, they're doing almost as well as the time that they had supply. So I think that's a very good positive. So here we see the same story here. They're doing fairly well, better than the street's expectation. Not as well, of course, but better what Wall Street's expecting. So I think that is a very good positive, very solid numbers there. And here we can see their numbers by sector, by area. So North America, we see the exact same thing playing out. We see Q2 to Q4 2020 when supply was plentiful and good performance here at the height of the semiconductor shortage. Okay, so that to me is good execution. Nothing wrong with that there. I think the numbers in South America here, the division in South America, are slightly more impressive because now we're breaking even in our profitability. We're not losing any more money as we were before. So here again, stock is plentiful, plenty of cars around. Here, not plenty of cars around, and we're maintaining the number here. So I think that it's positive, and they can turn this around even better than before. So I think this is positive for South America. We see Europe here, same situation. China, same situation. So it's the same thing throughout the world with Ford. The navigation of the semiconductor shortages, and here to note in China, the Lincoln brand hitting pretty well in China, and then they're saying, hey, Lincoln brand is doing good. That's not an electric vehicle. So kind of curious that the Chinese love their Lincolns. Okay, who would have known? Here they're talking about their Ford credit program and how the auction values of these vehicles, these lease vehicles, are higher because used vehicles are valued higher nowadays. Also lease extension programs that are working. And the Ford Pro FinSimple, which reduces the financing time for approval by nearly 90%. This is something that I'm not too keen on because I own Rocket Mortgage and Rocket Auto. I hope Rocket Auto can help with sales here and help each other out there. And here to kind of cut it off, I'll leave this the end of the slide session here, is the important thing here they're showing you adjusted free cash flow. And of course, we've seen that it is greater than 2020. So of course, they're doing really good, very impressive numbers by Ford. Great navigation of the semiconductor shortage. So it's pretty much positive there. So I want to close it out here with a chart of Ford. We can see here that when they reported earnings, they were around right here, and we see earnings increase with these numbers. So very solid numbers. The street likes what they saw from Ford this quarter, and with the reinstatement of the dividend and everything that they talked about in their conference call, the strength for the future for 2022 and how everything is looking upwards for 2022 and Ford. So that'll be it for today, guys. I went a little bit farther than I usually like, but I think it's very important to go over this earnings presentation because Ford is going to be one of these stocks that is going to have a lot of attention in the market in the future. So we're very happy with our position. I wish I had more shares in Ford. I have about 360 shares of Ford. I wish I had more, but at the same time, if it gets away from us, that's a good problem to have. Saying that I should have bought more is the best problem you can have in the stock market. I'll take that any day of the week here with Ford. Okay, guys? Peace out.